Have you ever wondered about the role of technology in well-being? Well, I've called it affective technologies. And I would like to present to you the process of designing technological artifacts inspired by emotions. My name is Santiago de Francisco, and I'm a design professor at Universidad de los Andes in Colombia. And today I want to share with you some of the results that we did with my students. But first, let's explain certain concepts related to the project. Sara Diefenbach defined positive technology as a term to connect positive psychology principles with interactive technology applications. For example, how happiness is composed, or the elements that compose happiness, and how we can improve it by engaging in intentional activities that represent 40% of our happiness. Another important concept is the idea of humanistic computing presented by David Rose, in which he defines 4 future technological trajectories like the terminal world and the interactive screen, products and services, prosthetics and the idea of enhancing our body with different tools, animism and the next wave of human robots, and finally, the enchanted objects and the concept of creating smart objects to improve our behavior. However, technology is not always well implemented. Take, for instance, the use of facial recognition. Today, we can unlock our phones or even pay for things with Face ID. But facial recognition algorithms also have open opportunities for stuff like deepfake. This technology or this application can be funny in some instances, but it can also be terrifying if, for instance, you cannot identify what is real from what is not. And I'm sure you have seen videos and other type of material of people applying this technology to put their faces in public figures' faces, for instance, or just to fake some stuff, like the GIF you're seeing right now. So inspired by the uneasiness of digital privacy, Ivan Nowak created Incognito. And that was the image you were looking at the beginning of the presentation. Incognito is a collection of face ornaments that are meant to avoid facial recognition. Iwa tested her ornaments with Facebook deepfake algorithm to ensure its success. And for some reason, or in a sense, you can say that Incognito was created out of that uneasiness of trust that she had. So technology experiences need to understand the richness of human experiences. And I cannot think of a better way to do that than through emotions. That is why we started our design exercise with an emotional superposition. This is the combination of positive emotions and negative emotions that result in what I call an emotional paradox. The idea with that emotional paradox was to have a conceptual input for students to explore through narrative, mood boards, and state-of-the-art projects their design visions for these technological artifacts or applications. First, they would have to write a short story about this paradox. With that story and understanding the concept behind the story, they had to build the aesthetic universe of it. In parallel, they had to choose and research one technology and map out all the projects related to that technology that could be connected with their paradoxes. Today, I will show you 3 out of 10 projects that were developed in that exercise. The first one, it's a paradox of inspiring concern, which was explained as that brief moment of anxiety that one experiences when one needs to be creative. The design concept behind it was a collection of smart chairs designed to transform the working environment to foster inspiration. The second paradox is the shame of dreaminess, which is when one's inner voice distracts one from reality and makes one lose the sense of being present. The design concept is a bedtime lamp designed to help you clear your mind and allow want to fall asleep. The third and final paradox is euphoric contempt, a feeling of being alert because something is suddenly going to change. The design concept behind this paradox is a technology that alters the perception of time in situations of great distress. So let me tell you about the first project, the Butler Collection. It was designed by Nicolas Pinzon and Laura Correa. And this smart chair, the collection of chairs, will read signs from your body, for instance, temperature, posture, heart rate, and they would send these requirements or this input to control elements from your workspace to create moments for creativity to flow. Inspiring concern, the paradox was understood as those moments where one struggles to move forward from a creative blockage, and was conceptualized using as reference digital personal assistants like Cortana, Siri, or Google Home. The chair has different sensors that will emit information to set up an appropriate work environment. These adaptations can make your working time more creative and make it more dynamic. Every time the chair senses a blockage, it will readapt the environment conditions to make you change your workflow and then to be more creative or to adapt to that creative rhythms. The second project is called Charming Dreams. Charming Dreams was designed by Mariana Sachica and Maria Jose Franco, and it's a lamp that contains a pendant that collects emotional information from one person during the day and uploads it to create a proper bedtime environment. The shame of dreaminess, which was the paradox, was understood as this conflict that one has with its own internal voice that keeps one thinking about past events and wouldn't allow one to clear our mind. It was inspired by projects like Philips Wake Up Lamp, just that in this project it was meant to enhance bedtime experience rather than wake up experience. The idea of charming dreams is that after wearing the pendant during the day, the lamp will receive all this information and set the light, the noise, and the rhythm for the person to prepare the mind and body to fall asleep. The idea of this project is to have like this emotional connection and mindful connection when going to bed. Finally, Perception is a project that was designed by Maria Paula Conde and Patricia Chavarria. This technology uses smart contact lenses and smart earbuds to alter the perception of time. The paradox used behind it was euphoric contempt, and it was understood as the ability or lack of ability to stay sharp and focus on situations that could represent a sudden change. It was inspired by augmented reality technologies that could add layers of information to users. In this case, those layers serve to alter the perception of time. So just like in movies, when a violent scene is played in slow motion, that represents how alert your senses are. The contact lenses and the earbuds create a feeling of slow motion for distress situations or fast forward for dull conditions so that you can change the perception of them and become more aware of your surroundings. I think that designing effective technologies require an understanding of an existing technology, and what we did with our students was to select one and define it and try to understand who was using it and why it was using it. To finally understand the context of use of this kind of technologies, the state of the art or the projects that are already there. So it was important for them to create this kind of map of universe of technologies. because then they started to define what they wanted to do. And the first thing they did was like to use a conceptual input, which in this case was guided by the exploration of these design paradoxes. And then, with the use of design tools, they were able to explore and conceptualize the understanding of the paradox by creating short stories and creating this aesthetical universe. And the idea of this was to finally get to the desired effect. And this was to create meaningful ways to apply these concepts to technology. During the last semesters, we explored this idea of affective technologies with emotional paradoxes, but it is possible to use other kinds of approaches. For instance, we created a second iteration of this exercise using symbolic meaning as a conceptual input and using the Design for Symbolic Meaning toolkit with complementing it with moodboards so that the design students can explore different methods to reach to design concepts. I think probably with the emotional paradoxes, the explorations were meant to be more poetic in a way. With the symbolic meaning and with this toolkit, the idea is that they could grasp a bit more the idea of designing a product or a service. With the affective technology exercise, we have learned with my students that these projects are unique and complex. Complexity is just another ingredient to understand even better the possibilities that tech and technology gives us. For that, we need to develop certain kind of awareness to understand that tech solutions might have multiple outcomes, and every outcome, even if it's intended to create well-being, can have a possible downside. Understanding that collateral results can help make us accountable and responsible for what we do and how we do it. And I think these exercises are meant to allow students and future designers to conceptualize, create, and reflect on the impact that they can have in the future world. Thank you very much.